So I had 6 books that I brought, and I kind of did a very loose theme of books that I've read in the last 6 months to a year, and I broke them up into 2 sections. The first section was books that were kind of like comfort reads that helped me, kind of get out of your mindset when it's winter and there's no sunlight and all of that. So some of them, actually all of them were rereads, but all very good. And then 3 of them were kind of more serious, embracing the darkness of winter, I guess. So I will start with the 3 serious books that I really liked. The first one is from our J collection, which is The Line Tender, written by Kate Allen. It is about a young woman, Lucy, whose mom dies when she's really young, who has a brain aneurysm, and she is a world-renowned biologist who studies sharks. And then basically when she's older, another tragedy happens, and Lucy delves into her mom's research as an artist, and ends up drawing sharks and working with her neighbor to kind of explore kind of what happened, as well as deal with all of her grief. It's an incredibly powerful story, but really, really well done. And it is kind of a great way to kind of look at art as well as science in a really cool way, especially for kids. I feel like that's really hard to do, but this did it really, really well. So I thought that was one of the more powerful books that I read in the last year. The second book is kind of a dystopian book, which is called Each of Us a Desert by Mark Oshiro, who wrote Anger is a Gift. This is his second major novel. It is about Zoe, who lives in this kind of dystopian desert telling stories from her village, and ends up kind of going on this journey through this dark kind of dystopian desert where things come to life, and there's kind of a lot of evil that's buried underneath it. And through that, kind of having this really powerful relationship, it handles a lot of big issues. And I think Mark Oshiro in Anger is a Gift, as well as Each of Us a Desert, it like handles a lot of really big emotions really well all the time. And so it's kind of cool to see his writing and kind of connect with those emotions. And then the last one, for the kind of more serious books that I read, is Pet. And I actually am listening to this one now. So I've read it a while ago and then now listen to it as my second reading. It's kind of Jam is the main character, and she ends up kind of accidentally summoning a monster, even though in this kind of society, all of the kids are told that monsters don't exist anymore. So it's kind of her reckoning with that, and you kind of slowly figure out what these monsters are in this kind of weird but fascinating world. And I think it is one of the better books that I've read that handles the idea of how we confront monsters in our society when we don't really know what exactly these monsters are or what they do. So it's kind of a mystery, kind of a dystopian novel, but really, really well written. And then for kind of the lighter books that I chose, the first one is Be More Chill by Ned Vizzini. Ned Vizzini is probably more well known for its kind of a funny story, which is a movie a few years ago about a kid going into a mental hospital for kind of depression and anxiety. Be More Chill, I believe, is earlier. This is a graphic novel adaptation about a kid who wants to be cool and ends up getting a microchip implanted in his head that kind of tells him how to be cool. That's voiced by Keanu Reeves, who is obviously the coolest person alive. And he uses that to try to kind of get the girl and be popular at school. It is really funny and also really relatable. He handles kind of that everyday high school life of anxiety and trying to fit in really, really well. So it's a really fun book and really well written. And then I have 2 actually adult books that I think can be accessed by a lot of different kids. The first one is the book Let's Explore Diabetes with Owls by David Sedaris, which is a great book title, first and foremost. But this is probably not his most famous. It's one of his more recent short story selections, but I think it is equally as funny and equally as interesting. David Sedaris is an incredible writer, and some of his essays are a little bit more serious, but they're always packed with emotion and very relatable. And I also highly recommend listening to his books on audio if you can. He's a great performer and probably equally well known for his performances and readings on like This American Life, as he is actually a novelist. So I highly recommend that. It's very rereadable as well. And then the last one, I think I might have book talked this before. It's a book of essays called They Can't Kill Us Until They Kill Us. It's written by Hanif Abdurraqib, and he is a music critic and an essayist. And even if you're not interested in every kind of music, he writes about such a wide variety of topics. Everything from My Chemical Romance to Aretha Franklin to A Tribe Called Quest. He actually wrote a whole separate book on A Tribe Called Quest recently. And he also kind of interweaves personal stories about his relationship to different music, whether it's like punk bands that he would see in Ohio when he was growing up to kind of Motown singers that he listened to. It's very personal, but also really fascinating. So regardless of what kind of music you're interested in, I highly recommend this. He also just had a book that came out, I believe today, called A Little Devil in America, which is his essays on Black performers, which is really interesting. I'm excited to read that. So yeah, those are my 6 books that I've kind of been reading over